First of all, great use of music throughout the film. Really enjoyed it. For the Skywalker team, where did the sound effects come from? Did you get anything from production? All the snow wishing, the clamps, anything like that?
There was quite a bit of production from the helmet cam mics, but you have to imagine these guys are going really fast, for one thing. So it's like sticking your head out of the window of a car on the freeway. That's what the mic hears, and there's also a helicopter nearby. So yeah, we did use some of that, but we often sweetened it with sound effects.
And Jürgen, where did you get those sound effects?
Jeff Dodson was the sound designer, so he created a lot of it, and
I did the first sound design pass on the film at my studio. And then I passed it to Jeff Dodson out of LA, and he kind of took my design and took it to another level, and added a lot of LFE and more dynamic sounds. And then Jürgen took that and kind of added his take on it and added his EQs on it and took it basically to another level from there. And then Juan did the dialogue and music mix on the film.
I was just gonna add that the use of sound design is extremely minimalistic, even in a film that is as big as this, and that's really due to Curt's vision. That you want to have something that sounds extraordinarily emotional, but still realistic, so that if you see a shot that's 100 feet away, you're not going to hear what the snowboard sounds like. So it'll take you out of that emotional moment if it's too loud. So Curt was painstakingly going through effects with us and making sure that everything sat just in the right spot.
Detrimental. It's my new word. I'm going to make it detrimental.
He was detrimental.
Okay, yes.
Let's just say mental.
So earlier on, somebody said that this movie was going to be a mobile experience as well. So phone, iPad, whatever, tablet. How are you? I mean, it's a big movie, right? There's beautiful footage. We have 7:1. How are you going to take that, the size of the movie, and what sort of creative decisions are you making so that it plays well on a device like this, or if it plays well on a tablet, or it plays well on a PC or whatever?
I think it's a good question actually for the Dolby guys, because they're actually helping us.
Not only the Dolby guys, but also the colorists as well.
Well, I can just talk about the sound maybe a little bit. So part of my role was the mastering for the Blu-ray, the DVD, the iTunes download, the material that went off on the DCPs for the roadshow, all on the same day. It was a big day. And if you have an extremely high quality source, which is what we started with, it's actually pretty easy to make sure that all the deliverables sound beautiful when they're rendered, no matter if it's in stereo or for this particular show. A lot of times it's in 7:1 in a very large auditorium with a huge PA system. Sometimes that is shrunk down in channels to maybe 3.1. So there'll be left, center, right, and just a sub in a really big hall, like a rock concert. So we had to make sure that everything folded down really nicely. And again, it was a pretty painstaking process. We made sure that everything sounded really good. And I think when you see it on broadcast too, we prepared all the material for broadcast. And it's going to sound high quality no matter where you listen to it. And because we used a Dolby Surround ProLogic 2 encoding on the stereo masters, if that hits any kind of Dolby decoder, it will pop back into surround sound, whether it's on a laptop or a cell phone or whatever.
I don't know about the color profiles. I mean, the color profiles, like if you're, and this is just interesting to me as well. It's just, everything really just translated well naturally over to the iPad, and I don't know if that was the encoding, but I mean, everything seemed to work really well. And obviously, you shrink something down from a larger format to a smaller format, it's just going to look sharper. But nothing's going to beat the, you know, the theatrical experience. But, you know, especially like the iPad is just such a cool experience for the film with a good set of headphones. It's, you know, I mean, audio seems to make up a lot of the difference for me in the smaller format viewing genre. Like, what do you think from your side?
Well, just to dovetail off what John was saying, you know, it really starts with you know, the quality of the end product, what we finished with. Well, even before that, you know, what we acquire on. And Eric, I think you might be able to speak to this since you were involved with more of the encoding and the post process. Once it left my hands, you know, for the DVD, Blu-ray, and all the iTunes. I mean, can you speak to that?
I'll say the only thing that I noticed I watched the 720p iTunes version, and the only thing I noticed is that in the blacks, some of the detail kind of goes away. But if you watch it on an iPad or watch it on an iPhone, you don't really notice that. But when you watch it on an HD TV, you know, things like that, it starts to get a little blocky. So that's a concern, and you know, really interesting to see how that technology kind of develops as people will want to plug their mobile devices into their big TVs and see that. You know, how is that going to translate through? We don't know yet. You know, we're kind of looking to Dolby to come up with it.
We're definitely working on. There's, you know, Nokia has a phone out that has an HDMI out that has Dolby Digital Plus surround sound technology in it, and we do a demo all the time where we hook this phone up to a home theater and play content off it, and it looks amazing, and it's in full surround sound. So that technology obviously is coming down the line. There's products out there that, you know, your little phone is also your little mobile portable media device. It's pretty cool.
We've had people project the 5.1 iTunes HD version for some showings, and everyone was very impressed. So it's kind of cool to be able to take just a digital medium and, you know, project that to a larger screen, and, you know, it's incredible that,
Yeah.
you know, the resolution that's being able to be handled by a digital platform right now.
Any other questions out there?
With 2600 to 1 ratio, you have more stuff to keep track of than most films. How did you talk about workflow for a moment? I mean, you had hard drives in some cabins in the middle of nowhere. When this was finished, how many terabytes or petabytes did you have?
Yeah.
And what were the editing, both the audio and the video editing tools you used?
Yeah, this will be a good question for me and Eric to kind of both talk about a little bit. But the you know,
200 terabytes.
200 terabytes. 200 terabytes are more of footage at the end of the day. A lot of the media, I kind of chose to, you know, instead of shooting 444, which is an uncompressed color space, shooting 422 and certain things like this to bring media down a little bit. A lot of the compressions were done at ProRes HQ. You know, like we had to make some kind of slightly sacrificial decisions, you know, for the production, just to maintain the amount of space that we could allow. But we would typically, you know, shoot a day, and we'd have a couple media managers just logging and capturing and downloading in the field, and we try to come home with everything somewhat organized, you know, and that worked. But the biggest thing, you know, the biggest challenge probably was, there's two really large challenges, was like, how do we build enough, you know, how do we build our server big enough and you know, able to keep the functionality of the server and not have Eric's head explode, as well as, you know, how could I come to the plate with only 3 months of post to tackle the project that was somewhat documentary based. It wasn't really scripted, so how could I take this and train a team to be able to cycle this footage down and top line it, and everything's done in Final Cut, to make it so that I only had to look at 300 hours of footage. So I cut the film completely opposite of the way it came out. Like, I scripted the film, or ordered the film exactly the opposite of how you saw it. And then it just completely changed for me in the editing room, and, you know, it just came down to, like, Eric and the team at Brain Farm to just basically say, like, how do we tackle this, you know, for Curt so that he can, like, handle it. I mean, it was just an intense amount of media to go through, and like just an obnoxious amount of media to go through, as well as, you know, Media House, Rebel Media House is trying to sell an episodic around it as well, which is very cool. The show's really cool, and it's very detailed and gets into the world that we live in, and so we had to create a lot more content for that. So I'll let Eric speak on that a little bit, but you know, it was really just intense media management.
Yeah, probably the quick 1-minute rundown. Every single camera that we shoot has its own proprietary format. We have P2 on the Varicams. The Phantom shoots its own. That's really big files. Red is right in the middle. We have Cineflex's HD Cam SR, a little bit of 35mm. So basically, we get everything in and transcoded everything to ProRes HQ right away. The whole goal was to not have editors have to render. Like, we could work with everything raw, but the editors would just sit and render and render. So everything was ProRes HQ. Once we got to the second trip, we realized at HQ we'd run out of space. Our SAN is 56 terabytes, which wasn't going to be big enough for the whole movie. So we decided to do an offline and proxy. We also built another editing facility at Curt's home so he could edit the movie while the rest of us worked on prepping the movie, working on the DVD extras and things like that. So we literally copied everything that we had in our office SAN and took it to a 48 terabyte SAN at Curt's house.
Did that take 2,600 hours?
I don't know.
Not quite. But by doing everything at proxy, naming all the files the same, when we online, we just swapped them. Swapped in the HQs, and everything that had to be color corrected, like red and things like that, we just made them as flat as possible. So we would ideally color correct the HQs. We could go back to the raw during color correction if we needed to, but in the end, we really didn't do too much of that because everything was really flat. So that kind of made the color pipeline a little bit easier. So people talk about, oh yeah, you can use Red Cine, you know, to do this and that. You have all that freedom, but that freedom takes so much time, and we didn't have time.
Freedom comes at a cost.
Yeah.
What did you grade on?
Freedom isn't free for folks like you and me.
I think we had a question of what did you guys grade on? So did someone deal that up?
Yeah, very quickly.
We graded on a DaVinci 2K Plus. And yeah, these guys did a great job for making it super easy for me.